What happened to Jaguars in America?
Jaguar poaching has become rampant in Suriname. Their bodies are boiled down to a paste. By the 20th century, jaguars were considered a threat to Western expansion and bounties were placed on their hides. And the trade has increased. Poaching jaguars is illegal in Suriname, but there isn't much enforcement. Besides the paste, the jaguar's teeth are turned into jewelry to supposedly protect from evil.
Have you followed the Jaguar debate that's going on right now?
No.
It's a great one, man. So, I'm going to tell you something that's objectively true.
Okay.
Okay. It's objectively true that we had a population of jaguars in the United States of America. Up until the 1800s, right? They just were. What's debated is, was it how stable was it? How widespread was it? Some people would point to, basically limited to southern Arizona. Some people would look and be, West Texas, New Mexico, southern Arizona. What about members of the Coronado expedition? Drawing a distinction between lions and jaguars all the way up toward the Platte River. Okay, why would they say both? You know what I mean? What are they confusing?
Where's the Platte River?
Oh, so in the more in the southern plains, the southern Great Plains of the United States, flowing across Kansas. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Where you have instances of people mentioning things that you sort of looking at man, if they weren't talking about jaguar, what the hell are they talking about?
How do they describe it?
Leopards. Okay. And a lot of times someone will say there'll be a reference to a large cat, and you can't rule out, maybe in the historic record, they're probably talking about mountain lions. But what do you do in a case where you have a historic record and someone is in some oddball place, southern Colorado, and they're talking about they have lions and leopards?
Oh, wow.
And lions and leopards. Lions and leopards.
Oh, wow.
And lions and leopards. Guess we're talking, they have to be referring to jaguars.
Right.
Much more widely dispersed. So as people get into talking about jaguar recovery, of which I'm a proponent with an asterisk. When people get talking about jaguar recovery, you have to define what that looks like. And there are some who would say jaguar recovery in North America as a collaborative effort between us, Mexico, Belize, whoever else has rolled into this jaguar recovery plan. Jaguar recovery in North America would mean recovering them across core habitat. Okay, that's a term you hear all the time, core habitat. So then you got to argue over what is the line, what's core habitat for jaguars. And some people will argue, and many of them have motivation. Some of them are honest, some of them have other kind of political motivation to say that core habitat is not Arizona. That was always fringe. Stray males, one or two here and there, long periods of absence. It wasn't core habitat. Other people would argue that Arizona was absolutely core habitat. And if we're going to restore jaguars in core habitat, we're going to be restoring jaguars in some portion of the lower 48. Meaning, eventually, and recovery would look a couple ways. One is protections, and you would watch how jaguars are able to flow back and forth across the border. A big question around jaguar recovery is the border wall. Okay, how much would a border wall impact large mammal movements? So that's an aspect. If we don't allow recovery in that way, or we make recovery in that way difficult, do we truck jaguars up and turn them loose in Arizona, New Mexico, West Texas? Really? You're going to turn them loose?
Right. Well, then
I love it, dude. I love them, and I honestly don't think they like live in such low population abundances, and they have such huge home ranges. I don't think it would ever be that there was like a jaguar problem. There's no
like a
jaguar
wolf problem.
Yeah, I don't think that you're gonna have people, the case where you might recover wolves in some area and lose 2/3 of the elk, like seemingly overnight. I can't picture that's. I think you'd lose a lot of lions. You'd lose a lot of mountain lions probably, but
Do you think they'd be forced out, or think due to predation?
I think that probably a combination of both, like them killing them and then just range reduction because of this big cat. But dude, I'm conflict averse enough where I don't want. It's like trucking them in to me is way in the future. And man, it would be a political battle, and you'd make a spotted owl out of the jaguar. You'd have some level of people that just came to hate them sons of bitches because they were a symbol of federal overreach. But them just coming across the border, I think, is a great way. It's a great thing to root for.
Well,
I
they
love
think
'em.
that's where they think El Jefe is coming through.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why they call him El Jefe. He manages to make his way through the wall.
Yep. For a jaguar to come hanging out in the U.S., it's a dicey life.
In the 1800s, jaguar could be found from California all the way to the Carolinas, but hunting wiped them out in the United States. But recently, a pair of males have been spotted in the Cuenca Los Ojos region of Sonora, Mexico. I had a chance to talk to the field biologist about what this means for the return of jaguar.
The jaguars that we saw in the borderlands, Valerio and Bonito, were also males. But the good news about them is that they are young. And when I am saying that, I am telling you about pumas, black bears, beavers, ocelots, and lately we discovered that there is the jaguar. And this is pretty incredible.
The first jaguar showed up in March 2021 in Cuenca Los Ojos, a protected area. Located in Sonora, Mexico, it's a sky island in the Sierra Madre, which allows the jaguars to traverse the mountain range and avoid the heat of the desert. Loss of habitat was a huge part of why jaguars were lost in the United States.
And they're now considered to be a near threatened species because there's been a loss of probably 20 to 40% of their range.
John Koprowski is a professor at the University of Wyoming and Ganesh Marin's PhD advisor. He says the sky islands in the Sierra Madre Mountains are what makes it possible for the jaguars to move north.
But this kind of wonderful tapestry, this mosaic of diverse habitats that are connected by proximity, really. The ability to make a move between an island, jump across, maybe an inhospitable desert environment to get to a more lush mountain environment.
And with this pair of male jaguars, Benito and Valerio, making it so far north, they're sending a message.
They essentially tell us that there's some connectivity available and that there's suitable habitat.
So by keeping these corridors open and preserving areas like Cuenca Los Ojos, this will support the jaguar's return to the United States.
We need to have connected all these mountainous areas and all the big washes, the big canyons. And between Mexico and the United States, they're still open.
With these two males establishing territory this far north, a female is likely to follow. The hope is a female won't be too far behind, about another 5 years. But as long as this area is protected and maintained, it looks like it could happen.
This was the first picture ever taken of a live jaguar in the United States. It was taken in 1996. The man who found it was hunting mountain lions with his dogs when they treed a feline. Once he got there, he was extremely surprised to see the coat and to see that it was a jaguar. He called off the dogs and let the cat go. Since then, there have been more sightings, but they are extremely rare. But it hasn't always been that way. During the Pleistocene, up until just around 10,000 years ago, jaguars could be found as far north as Washington and even Nebraska. We could have had them here in Kansas. They were really common in areas like Florida and Tennessee. And it wasn't like the American cheetah or the American lion when they went extinct at the end of the Ice Age. These jaguars were still in the area until as recently as the early 1900s when the US was paying bounties for their coats.
The Panthera atrox never went extinct. It is the Jaguar.